Alright guys, so here's our project for today. We're going to replumb this kitchen sink. They have a 90 going right into a P-trap, backtracking left down into another 90 into the drain. There's no vent underneath the sink, so they put an air admittance valve, which is fine, but I would plumb it in a little bit differently. They have this fancy little wire here holding the whole thing up as well. So let's start with just cutting this whole thing out and showing you how I would actually plumb this in for better drainage and done properly.
Before getting started, I recommend placing an old towel and a bucket under the P-trap. This will catch any water that is held within the trap. Loosen off all the threaded connections to remove the drainage. I'll be cutting the drain line where it enters the base of the cabinet, making sure to leave enough piping sticking out of the cabinet to reconnect the drainage. I'm removing and replacing the basket strainers as well. As you can see, once removed, the threads are severely damaged. Before installing the new basket strainers, clean the flange at the base of the sink. Install the rubber washer on the flange of the strainer and center within the drain. Under the sink, secure the assembly by installing the pressure cup, then tightening down the lock nut. Connect the tailpiece by first installing the plastic washer into the tailpiece with the wider side up, facing the bottom of the sink. Do not over tighten, as you can easily damage the plastic washer. The first step I take in starting the drainage is connecting the two basins. Start by installing 1.5 inch trap adapters onto the tailpieces. It is important when adding the fittings to the trap adapters that the tailpiece doesn't extend into the bottom of the fitting. This will restrict the drainage and cause backups. Cutting the ABS or PVC can be done with a plastic handsaw, hacksaw, or plastic tubing cutters. It is important that the cut is straight so that the tubing has a maximum amount of contact with the fitting. Using a tubing cutter as shown will ensure an accurate, straight cut with no mess. Using the correct cement is very important. This is ABS tubing, so ABS cement should be used. PVC and PVC to ABS connections have different cements. Apply a thin, even coating to any part of the fitting and tubing which make contact with each other. Push together and turn slightly to ensure complete coverage. The cure time will depend on the cement, temperature, and humidity. Holding the fittings together for 2 to 3 seconds should be sufficient. Wipe away any excess cement. In this case, it makes the most sense to run my drainage to the left, as this is where my drain connection is. This means I'll be connecting my right basin with a 90 and my left with a TY, making them roughly the same height. We will gain the correct 1/4 inch per foot slope by raising the right trap adapter or lowering the left one. Next is connecting the dishwasher Y. Make sure that the dishwasher fitting is flowing towards the drain and facing upwards. If you do not have a dishwasher, connect the TY and the 90 together using a straight piece of tubing. The correct slope for 1.5" drainage is 1/4 inch per foot. To read this on the level, it is roughly when the bubble just touches one of the middle lines. Since the drainage is flowing to the left, the bubble should just be touching the right middle line on the level. Now that we have both basins connected, it's time to start the vent and final drainage. Since there are multiple scenarios you can run into at this step, I'll demonstrate a few. The most common scenario you'll find in climates that don't experience freezing temperatures is just a single drainage pipe coming from the back of the cabinet. In this case, the vent is already connected within the wall, and to finish the drainage, the P-trap can be connected from the bottom of the TY and directly into the drain at the back of the cabinet. The most common scenario that you'll find in climates that do experience freezing temperatures is the drain coming from the base of the cabinet and the vent coming from the back. In this case, a second TY will be needed to connect the vent to the drainage. This vent is called flat venting, and a cleanout is required on the end part of the horizontal vent. The cleanout at the base of the drainage isn't required but recommended for easier servicing. Here's an example of the importance of a properly vented drainage system. Venting is just as important as the drain, as it can cause slow drainage and drains that are more prone to blockages. As a service plumber, I always install a cleanout at the base of the drainage. This will make servicing the drainage easier in the case of a blockage. Use a union P-trap and a TY to connect the basins to the drain. Don't feel bad if you have to dry fit any of the connections first to line everything up. Remember, once it's glued, it's extremely difficult to come apart. Note that the TY has a direction of flow and should be directed towards the drain. The piece that connects the P-trap to the vent in drain is called the trap arm. This section's length is to be a minimum of 2 pipe diameters. This being 1.5" pipe, it has to be 3 inches minimum. This is to prevent siphoning out the water that makes up the trap seal. This device is called an air admittance valve, or in the trades, a cheater vent. It allows air into the drainage system but not out. It is designed for drainage where installing a vent isn't practical, such as renos that have finished walls or ceilings and island sinks. In my scenario, I have to use one because for whatever reason the rough-in plumber 20 years ago didn't install a vent. They also roughed in the drain coming into the cabinet crooked, as you can see, but sometimes you have to adapt to what you are given. Though the cheater vent can be installed as shown here, it works best higher up in the cabinet. I use two 45s to offset the vent past the basin and higher up. The final step in completing the drainage is reconnecting the dishwasher drain with a gear clamp or spring clamp depending on your dishwasher model. The finishing touches can be installing some split ring chrome cover plates. There are a few different models, but I prefer the plastic ones as they don't rust and are easy to cut. Once complete, always check for leaks at all the connections. Well guys, thanks for watching the video, and hopefully it cleared up some questions on kitchen sink drainage. If this video was helpful, please feel free to like and comment, as it's always greatly appreciated. Thanks again, until next time.